Good morning and welcome to the best real estate podcast you're going to find. And I'm super excited to be here with you today. My name is Kim Hayden and I am the host of today's show. I'm excited to introduce a lovely gal from the warm state of Arizona. She is going to be chatting with us. Her name's Jennifer Beadles. She's the founder and CEO of Agents Invest, and she is passionate about helping real estate agents close more deals while working less hours. When Jennifer discovered the power of working with investors, she soon earned enough to take control of her time and began investing in real estate herself. Through 15 years of experience, Jennifer has honed in on the craft of finding deals and working with investors, and is now providing agents with the tools they need to scale up and build their wealth. Jennifer has sold over 250 million in real estate, with over 215 closed referral transactions in 2021 alone. Welcome, Jennifer. Wow, those are some impressive numbers.
Oh, thank you so much, Kim. I'm thrilled to be here with you today.
Amazing. And you look lovely. I love that golden glow. You can tell Jennifer is in Phoenix. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, I
Phoenix?
recently I just relocated to Phoenix. I'm originally from Seattle.
Oh, and you already have a tan. That's impressive. So,
Yes, yes.
Jennifer, seeing me, how long would it take for me to get a tan in Arizona? That's a reason alone to move to
Yes, we'll
Arizona.
visit.
Yes. So, no, seriously, have you seen yourself like healthier glow since moving to the sunny state, or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, every day we're outside in the pool and enjoying all the sunny days for sure.
Awesome, awesome. So you've relocated, and that's actually a really scary thing for a lot of real estate agents. So it actually, let's start there, and then we're going to go into the principles and practices you have developed that you know can now coach and teach that allowed you to move. Because a
Yes.
lot of agents are terrified of moving because your community is your business. So walk
Absolutely.
us through your move and then your principles that you've applied so you can continue to grow your business.
Sure, absolutely. So I should mention, I actually retired from real estate sales in
Oh,
2017. Yeah, and and I'll kind of tell the backstory there. I started in real estate when most agents were getting out of the business. So I got my license in May of 2009. And again, literally remember agents walking out the door with their box of things saying, "Good luck to you. There's no business here." And so I got started in a time where there's a lot of turmoil in the market. I saw the opportunity to serve the investor community because I would say a lot of the properties in my market were fixer uppers, were cash only. And so, again, I saw an opportunity where a lot of agents weren't exploring. So I went full into that. Started serving the investor community, and I kind of I call it I learned while I earned, right? And so I learned from these investor clients, of course, applied that to my own investment portfolio, but made a really great living doing that. I found that I could work with maybe 20 to 25 investors a year. And a lot of those investors would purchase between 3 to 5 properties each every year. And so, in doing the math, you can imagine, the high volume that I was able to do by working with a pretty small database of investors. And kind of fast forward 2017, I found myself with an entire database of investors. And unfortunately, the deals no longer made sense in my market in terms of what the investors were looking for. And I found myself at a place of a crossroads as well as an investor, thinking, well, where else can I go to get the returns that I'm looking for? And so I started building a network of investor agents all across the country. And I was an initial buyer at first. And then I started referring my investor clients to these agents. And it was fantastic. We have a great story about an agent in Indianapolis. I purchased my first out of state deal with that agent. It was a brand new agent, but really we could speak the same language. I referred him to one client from California. That client bought 10 properties in 60 days and essentially made made that brand new agent.
wow.
Yeah, he was Rookie of the Year. And so today it's great. So I don't actually participate in the sale of real estate, and yet we've closed. Yeah, last year it was like 218 referral transactions So essentially, I'm a matchmaker now of the between the investor and the investor agent. And it's a really beautiful thing because I'm able to help agents kind of build and grow their businesses and also add value to these investors so that they can continue to build wealth and also some location diversification.
Amazing. So this leads me to a question. So let's just go down a hypothetical road here. So I know of a young lady who has worked to get her license. So she's taking the
Mhm.
course. And in Canada, it's very expensive to get the course.
Yes.
However, personality wise, she is actually far more, I think she's actually more geared towards maybe the commercial side of real
Mhm.
estate.
Yes.
Could this matchmaking work within like commercial investments also, not just residential?
Oh, absolutely. I think that there's a kind of an opportunity right now where a lot of the commercial agents, the traditional, the Marcus and Millichaps, the CBRE, a lot of the commercial brokerages, they don't deal in maybe 50 units and below. It's also going to be market dependent, right? Depending on the price point. And so there's an opportunity, I would say, for residential agents to kind of break into this space that's maybe that 5 to 50 units that's not being served by the agent community. And yet, a lot of investors are looking for those types of opportunities, especially as we're seeing 1031 exchanges, becoming more popular. Of course, it's been around since I think the 40s. But there's a lot of investors that are looking to exchange properties in maybe the coastal markets where they have a lot of equity, but maybe the landlord tenant laws are changing and it's not as favorable of an environment. And I'm doing this myself with my personal portfolio. I mean, you can sell a duplex maybe in California or Oregon or Washington State and essentially trade into, 20 units or 30 units in the Midwest. And so again, there's not a lot of the commercial agents that are serving this area. And we're also seeing a lot of aging landlords that want to get out of these properties. And so I think there's a huge opportunity to serve both the investor and also, target some of these sellers that are looking to sell.
Absolutely. So, okay, so I do understand the whole move from the coast type of thing due to the cost and expense
Yes.
they've had some upheaval over the last 5 6 years politically. So I do understand that it is going to be very interesting watching how when we look at politics and such, the
Mhm.
shift in some of these states because we're seeing coasters. So when you look at the
Yes.
coast, east and west, they tend to be more one way, whereas you look at the
Mhm.
Midwest. So
Yes.
that's going to be interesting. So when you're negotiating and you're moving into some of these spaces, what are some of the struggles people are coming across when you have mom and pop who have
Uh-huh.
owned these 14 properties for forever, but none of their
Mhm.
kids want them or their kids are gone or
Yes.
whatever, and
Yes.
now they're selling to the big fancy person out from the coast.
Uh-huh.
How are ways that you walk in and put those sellers at
Mhm.
ease? Like what can be the language around that? Does that sound am I crazy in even thinking that? But I'm just
No, yeah, I mean, this happens every day. And so I would say that the sellers are essentially looking to get out, right? And so they're, essentially wanting to retire from being a landlord and, they're looking to sell these properties. Maybe some of the challenges that the agent faces and the investor faces is a lot of times the owners don't have very clear financials. And so it can be a challenge to get a professional rent roll and what we call a trailing 12 months of profit and loss statements from these sellers. And so, essentially we can underwrite deals just based on a rent roll and some pro forma numbers. And so that's pretty easy to do. But essentially, I would say the conversation and the opportunity again for the agents is to start reaching out to some of those sellers. Certainly, creating a farm and or doing direct mail, obviously some networking. I think every single agent should host their own monthly meetup. That's a big kind of pillar to the training and the content that I teach. And so we host two meetups a month, one in Seattle and then one in where I'm at in Scottsdale. And we get a lot of those sellers that come to those meetups. And they're kind of trying to figure out how to potentially exit these properties in a way that maybe is not disruptive to the tenants, as well. A lot of the self managers that we find do have relationships with these tenants. And so it can be a bit of a struggle for them. And so, again, I think the opportunity is to serve those seller clients. There's a lot of opportunities even for them to get into a 1031 and do what's called a DST, meaning they can essentially defer the tax, but not have the burden of buying another property and operating that, because that's why they want to get out most of the time. And so I think what we're talking about here, Kim, is really having agents kind of consider what other tools they can put in their tool belt that would have them potentially stand out from every other agent. There's over 2 million agents in the
One,
United States.
yeah, 1.897 or something like that. As to last account, it's crazy. Yeah.
And
So it's,
growing and
yeah,
growing every day.
yeah.
And so
Which,
we're seeing this trend of a lot of millennials that are living in these high cost of living areas, potentially not buying a home, but investing in other areas. And it's really interesting. I wouldn't say any other time. I've been doing this for 15 years, but I've not seen this trend that's growing so aggressively of these younger people wanting to essentially invest in real estate and kind of have this plan B for retirement, while also, again, not necessarily buying in the areas that they're living. They might be working in tech.
well,
Um,
and I think the pandemic has shifted the way we think about where we live and work. And
Absolutely.
with Starlink coming online and getting more prolific every
Mhm.
day, in 24 months, you're going to be able to, work for a company in San Francisco and be in the middle of the ocean, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so in that kind of thought, what do you think about, so if you go to Kansas, I'm originally from Kansas, and my brother-in-law owns like 19 properties, and he's been in this game
Mhm.
for a while and such. So,
Mhm.
but when I look at some little itty bitty towns in the middle of Kansas, right? And some of these small towns have airports from way
Uh-huh.
back
Yeah.
when, and then the towns went through huge recessions and never rebounded, but they have
Mhm.
infrastructure.
Yes.
And you can go in and buy a house cash
Mhm.
outright for like $12,000, right?
Mm, mhm. Mhm.
So, what are your thoughts as somebody who's been in this industry for over a decade? Let's
Mhm.
do a little bit of forecasting. I'm not going to hold you, and nobody out there is allowed to hold Jen to anything here. But let's do a in a alternate universe or perfect
Mhm.
world, this is what could happen to these little forgotten towns throughout the
Mhm.
Midwest. Tell me
Mhm.
what you see there, and if you were talking to somebody who is investing long term.
Oh, absolutely. So that trend has been in play for the last 24 months. So Tennessee, high net inward population migration. We're seeing a lot of people moving to these states that are also non-income tax, right? So Tennessee's a non-income tax state, Texas as well, Florida, right? Those are Arizona, where I'm at, the top, kind of inward population migration states. I tend to draw a 1 hour radius around the larger cities, the Nashville, the Austin, even Houston, right? We're seeing a lot of kind of push into the suburbs as well. So I think we want to be careful about maybe the small towns where they have declining population, where there's maybe lack of job opportunities, right? Wages have not been increasing. That means it's a little bit more of a risky play, in my opinion. There could be some money made on these $12,000 houses. I don't know what rents might be, but for most investors, I like that 1 hour radius surrounding these large cities and finding these opportunities where we see population increases. So Clarksville, Tennessee is about 45 minutes north of Nashville. I'm sorry, northwest of Nashville. And it's had a 50% population increase over the last 15 years. And so those are the kind of markets, those are the kind of opportunities that I'm seeing in the marketplace. And it's really interesting, though. I don't know that the local realtor population knows that. They just see the population, growing and thinking, great, this growth is fantastic. But I would love to see more residential agents say, I want to serve some investor clients and essentially put my market on the map and potentially close more business in their local market by maybe changing their language and conversation around the opportunities. So we're seeing a lot of that happening right now. So again, I spend a lot of time researching different markets, the trends of where, the population increases are happening, where people are moving to, and essentially trying to kind of get in before everyone else hears that that's a great market to invest in. And I have another story. I have a friend of mine who lives in New York City. She'd recently just moved from Miami back to New York City, thinking that she was, going to buy a place. Spent a couple weeks there and said it won't be an option. The prices are so high, rents are so high. And so just the other day, we were talking about her buying a house hack in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and what she could get for that money there, and essentially have her mortgage payment paid by the tenants on the other side. So we're seeing a lot of those kind of trends at play.
You just used the term house hack. What is that?
Yes. So there's a couple of different ways that people or buyers can house hack. Way number one, so I call that the live in flip. I have done 5 live in flips and made over $1 million by living in a property, fixing it up or remodeling while I was living there for 2 out of 5 years, selling and essentially paying no capital gains tax on the sale of the profit, right? The profit. So that's one way. Another way to house hack is essentially you could purchase a property, live in it, maybe you have to meet that 1-year owner occupancy requirement. You could move out and then keep it as a rental and just cash flow it from there. But the benefit is by living there for a year, you could put minimal down, maybe FHA or VA if you have a VA loan. And so we've done that many times as well. And then the third option is buying a property, and maybe it's a multifamily property, or maybe it has multiple bedrooms, maybe it's a 5-bedroom home, and renting out either other units or other bedrooms and essentially having that mortgage payment covered. So essentially owning a piece of real estate, but living there rent mortgage free.
Absolutely. And we see that. So here in Calgary, where I'm at, you're not going to get into a house now for under 400,000.
Right.
So that is a very viable option. And we see a lot of
Mhm.
like basements that are suited because in Calgary, everybody has a basement, right? Due to
Right.
cross lines and movement.
Mhm.
Capital gains, best states that people should look at house hacking.
Oh, I think any state could work for house hacking. You could house hack in California, you could house hack in New York. It's just, I would say that you're probably looking at different types of properties. You're looking for rentable space, or the fixer upper, the live in flip, as I had mentioned. Maybe the properties in the nice neighborhoods that aren't in the best condition. There's a lot of opportunities in the US for renovation financing, 203K loans for owner occupants. And so I believe that everyone should house hack as their first property, essentially buy that property again, either a live and flip or rent out some of that space and essentially get that mortgage payment covered, live there for a year and then move on and do it again, ideally.
Okay, so in your program, this is the language that you're teaching real estate agents, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So how do you encourage, or how would you advise a real estate agent who, let's say they have been 10 years successfully
Mhm.
grooming and farming their local market, they are, residential specialists within a specific area, they've got a
Mhm.
strong return, but
Mhm.
they see that 20-year line coming, and what are they doing for their future?
Yes.
What are some ways that they can actually start integrating and moving into the investment side?
Oh, I love that question, Kim. So first thing, I would love to see every agent start putting investor type content in front of their current database. So there's a couple of different ways you could do that. One is you could host a local meetup and an investor meetup. You can invite a local property manager to come speak. You can invite commercial lenders. You can invite investors from the community. I think sometimes agents are afraid of, they always want to be the expert, and maybe they're not yet an expert in this space. Well, they can still be the host. And so, again, getting maybe your database thinking about this, because my thought is that most of our databases are thinking about it, but they might not be thinking about us as an investor agent. And so, start putting some content out in front of your current database, and essentially get into their minds while they're thinking about that right now. You can also host virtually. So for some areas that maybe aren't allowing in-person meetups, then host a monthly webinar series. And again, invite commercial bankers. You can invite CPAs, attorneys, property managers, contractors. There's a lot of different topics that you can bring speakers in to talk about that. Number two would be to start pitching some multifamily listings or rental property listings to your current database. Again, showing them a path of building wealth through real estate investing, and see who raises their hand. Again, I have a feeling that there's a lot of investors currently living in these agents' database. They just haven't really had those conversations. And then I think the next thing is I would love to challenge every agent to buy at least one investment property every year. And that's how I got started. And it completely changed everything for me. Again, I was a lot of times learning from my investor clients what they were charging for rent, how they use their leases, the property managers that they were working with, the contractors. And so just by buying one investment property a year, it doesn't have to be a large property. It could be one single family home. It could be, a multifamily property if you have those in your market and the numbers make sense. But the one property a year, it really snowballs and it can add up. And so for somebody that's maybe looking to get out, like me, I didn't, when I got into real estate sales, I had no intention of being a lifer because, Kim, as you know, being an agent and operating in sales, it should be 24/7.
Yeah, it
And
is. Absolutely. That's why I said I want to travel now, so I've retired.
Mhm.
I've retired. So I
Right.
had to, and I, you know what, to be honest, Jennifer, nobody had actually really talked to me about this. So I think
Yeah.
a lot of real estate agents are really good at creating community. They're really
Mhm.
good at, I always joke that I'm an accidental real estate agent because I hosted events, I created opportunities,
Mhm.
I supported the local scouts, I created moms and
Mhm.
tots groups. I was really front and present. They always joked that I was the mayor of my community. And in knowing this, I still didn't have the full understanding of investment and how money moved.
Mhm.
I just
Right.
knew how to sell the property.
Right.
So I find it fascinating that you're talking about this at such a
Mhm.
young age because
Mhm.
I raised my children in this business, right? So all
Mhm.
they have
Mhm.
seen is the hustle hard.
Yes.
So yeah, I agree with you that it is putting another level within the
Mhm.
service offerings. So you have
Absolutely.
honestly an exit strategy. Most real estate
Oh,
agents have no
absolutely.
exit strategy.
Uh-huh. And really that was the only reason why I was able to retire after only selling real estate for 7 years, was because my rental portfolio today pays all of our living expenses. And so and we travel about 3 to 4 months a year. Essentially we step out of the business and travel Europe or in different countries. And the only way that I'm able to do that is because of this rental portfolio that I've built, one property at a time over the years. And then we haven't even talked about the tax benefits of owning all of this real estate. So I find that a lot of agents are really successful. They earn, a high income, right? Because there's unlimited potential in real estate sales. And then we have this giant tax bill. So the again, there's so much opportunity when you own investment real estate to get depreciation, and then again defer taxes through 1031 exchanges. And so that it's really just changed everything. And so again, one property at a time. It doesn't have to be a large property.
Yep.
You can scale up from there, but it makes all the difference.
Well, and actually, I would think the smaller properties in a good neighborhood are even better investments because you can rent them easier, right?
Sure.
That's what my brother-in-law specializes in is great
Mhm.
little houses in or crappy little houses in great little neighborhoods that have good schools and good taxes.
Yes.
So that's what he has built an entire portfolio on. This
Mhm.
leads me to I have two more questions for you.
Of course.
So, and I've written them down. One is foreign investment. So
Mhm. Mhm.
buying into, do you advise or help agents set up so they can actually help people buy in, Mexico or in Europe somewhere? I
Mhm.
mean, in
Mhm.
Spain, they're basically, or not in Spain, but in Italy, they're giving away land, right? So,
Uh-huh.
um, do you help people with that, or is there anything within your toolbox around, outside of the U.S.?
Yeah. So I think the United States is the greatest opportunity in the entire world for investment real estate. There's no other opportunity that I've spent a lot of time in other countries and researching this. And I spent a month in Italy last summer exploring free houses or $1 houses, €1 houses. And to be honest, Kim, you can't beat the yield that we can get in the United States. Now, we do work with a lot of international investors that are investing in the United States. And so I think that that's a great opportunity, especially you're from Canada, of course. We have a lot of
Yeah.
Canadian investors that are investing in the United States. But in terms of helping clients invest in other countries, it can be quite difficult. There are some great opportunities, say in Vietnam and some of the Asian countries, and unfortunately, they don't allow foreigners to own real estate. Everything is on land lease, 100-year land lease. And so could be some opportunity in the Baltics. I spent a month in Croatia also researching some of the opportunities because they're still currently using the kuna and not the euro yet, and that's coming in a couple of years. There could be some opportunities there. But again, right now in the United States, it's extremely easy for an international investor to own real estate in the United States and also get financing. That's something that's in most countries as a US investor, we don't have opportunities to get financing. It needs to be purchased in cash. But for the foreign investor coming in, there's opportunity with about 30% down to get financing terms.
Wow. Wow. That is something that, you know what, we'll have to actually look at collaborating on something further because I
Mhm.
know Calgary, Canada is very expensive, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes. Uh-huh.
investing south, right? And I mean, I just watch like you can buy a house for $125,000 in Wichita, Kansas, turn around and rent it. My brother-in-law
Mhm.
rents for $1,200 a month. So he's literally
Right.
cash positive in 5 years on these properties. And
Absolutely.
I'm sitting here going, yeah. That doesn't happen in Calgary. It's
No.
a little
Or
bit
another
harder
country.
because yeah, it's a little bit
Right.
harder here. Um, when it comes to investment, we're up against now we're seeing multi-million dollar, billion-dollar organizations like Zillow. We're seeing
Mhm.
lots of companies now that are actually going into the affordable housing
Yes.
consumption. They're
Yes.
actually just sucking that entire market dry. How
Yes.
does the individual who wants to have a portfolio of 6 to 8
Mhm.
properties,
Mhm.
how do they compete?
Yes, great question. So you mentioned there's a couple of different ways that an investor could get into this market. One is single family homes, and there's a lot of competition in that space. As you mentioned, the Zillow, the hedge funds, of course, are buying multiple houses in a lot of these markets, and then you're also competing with first time home buyers. And so that market is, in my opinion, very difficult to get into. However, I think the greatest opportunity is in that 2 to 50 unit space. That's actually my specialty. I focus on small multifamily, small apartment complexes, and for me, that's the opportunity to get in with a high cash on cash return. And then also, essentially, you can control the value of the asset because it's based on the net operating income versus the comp value. So in single family homes, your single family home is only ever worth what the neighboring properties have recently sold for. And so with a market shift, let's say you want to refinance. Let's say the interest rates come back down and you wanted to refinance and your neighbor just sold for $100,000 and they're a similar style and size. Your house will likely appraise for $100,000. When you own an apartment complex, it's based on, again, the net operating income. So, as a good operator, you can essentially drive up the rents and then the value follows immediately. And so, again, I could talk for probably an hour about that and how it works. And
Now, Jennifer,
um,
I think there's absolutely I think there's a trip to Calgary in your future for a conference here. We're actually looking at doing a women in real estate live conference kind of
oh,
here.
fun.
And what you're talking about with foreign investors and
Mhm.
opportunities, you know, there's a lot of opportunity that I think is being left
Mhm.
on the table. And you are speaking at the Realtor Summit coming up, so you're part of
Yes.
that group. That's going to be quite good. So if you are in real
Mhm.
estate and you see this video, you watch it. It's going to be up on our LinkedIn and such, for the next few days, and then we actually then
Mhm.
repurpose it into a full blown podcast and then do some promotion around it.
Mhm.
The goal is that through the Realtor Summit that we have as many different voices sharing as many
Mhm.
different ways to successfully create revenue and
Mhm.
put women in the driver's seats of our real estate, our economy, and our communities. So
Mhm.
I'm really excited to hear all that you're going to share. How can people reach out and find you, Jennifer? How can we get a hold of you?
Yeah. Yeah. So our website is agentsinvest.com. And you can also email me, jennifer@agentsinvest.com.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, folks. So until next time, next Thursday, I'm here every Thursday, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're talking real estate, and we're moving this into the best real estate podcast you'll be able to find, and getting amazing voices like Jennifer to come in and tell us how as real estate agents we can operate a little bit better, and B, how as real estate agents we can actually guide our clients better. That's the big one. Are you a leader? Can you actually help your clients become and grow the wealth they deserve? So, again, until next time, I'm Kim Hayden. Be sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment. And we'll see you on the flip side.